Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer on a couple things. First of all, yes, I am wearing the messiest lipstick in the world, but I knew if I tried to fix it, I would just smear it all over my face, so I'm sorry. No, but really guys, I do have a very serious disclaimer for this video. It is some very dark subject matter. It did give me nightmares for like a week, and I do discuss some incredibly grotesque and gory subjects in this video. So if you do have more of a weak stomach or you are more sensitive to violence and gore, please check out one of my more lighthearted videos. I've linked a couple in the description down below. Hey, what's up guys? Jillian Rogue here, and welcome to my first video in my new series about cults. Today we're going to be taking a look at 5 of the craziest cults that were formed based on the occult. Let's get started. Mark Kilroy was a 21-year-old pre-med student at the University of Texas. In March of 1989, Mark and 3 of his friends went on a spring break trip to South Padre Island. At the end of their break, on March 14th, the 4 friends decided to cross the border into Matamoros for a last night of fun. After a late night of drinks, they walked back to their car. On the way to the car, one of the 4 friends had to go pee, so he said he would go behind a tree and that he would catch up with the rest of them later. However, on his way to go pee behind a tree, he saw a Mexican man motioning towards the group of friends and saying something along the lines of, "Didn't I see you somewhere?" When he returned to the car, Mark Kilroy was gone, and the other 2 friends had no idea where he went. 3 weeks later, an Elio Hernandez Rivera, age 22, was arrested for weed during a routine traffic stop. When he was questioned, he told authorities about a ranch that his family owned and about several other drug dealers residing there. When they arrived at the ranch, they asked a caretaker if he had seen Mark, and he pointed at an ominous tin shack. Upon entering the shack, they found blood covering the floors and walls, as well as candles, a large cauldron with a charred brain and a charred turtle shell in it, a large oil drum that was used to boil victims alive, a human spine, and other remains. Outside the shed, they found 12 severely mutilated bodies buried in shallow graves. One of those bodies was Mark Kilroy's, and he was missing his brain, his spine, and his legs severed at the knees. Oh, fuck, man. I couldn't fucking imagine that. I couldn't imagine your friend going missing and like that happening to... Oh, fuck. Shortly after, 2 more cultists were arrested while wearing necklaces made out of human vertebrae. They identified Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo, age 24, as their leader. They referred to him as El Padrino, or the Godfather. Now, while Adolfo was the mastermind, they identified Sarah Eldete, age 24, as the religious leader. She was known as the Witch and the Godmother. According to the cultists' further testimony, Kilroy was killed because the ritual they were performing called for a white student. They stated that when Mark was abducted, he nearly got away, but then was wrestled back into the car. He was brought to the ranch, kept in the shack, given a last meal, and then executed by Constanzo with a machete. It was believed this cult was practicing dark Santeria based on objects that were found in the shed. They were sacrificing these victims to Ogun, a patron god of criminals, and it was said that through these sacrifices they would be invincible to the law and also bulletproof. That didn't work out too well though. While Constanzo was on the run from the law, he ended up convincing a couple of his followers to shoot and kill him. When Sarah was finally apprehended, she claimed to merely be a prisoner of the cult, but unconvinced, she was tried and then convicted as a serial killer. When Herbert Arthur Sloan was a child, a large horned god appeared to him in the woods, a god that he recognized as Satan. As an adult, he formed Our Lady of Endor cult, which is also known as Fake Cultists Satanas. Now this cult did not kill, but they are still noteworthy, I think, just because what they believed is so interesting. Sloan had an incredibly fascinating approach to Satanism, which is now known as Gnostic Satanism. Basically, what Sloan did was took a Gnostic approach to Satanism. Gnosticism is a religion that believes in essence that our true free form is in spirit, and that the God who created the earth, matter, and our human bodies is the more inferior God, or the evil God, because he did that to enslave us. This evil inferior God was trying to keep us from our free, true form by enslaving us in the physical dimension, where we're of course bound by physical laws. Gnostics believed that the only way to get back to our true form is not only through death, but even in death not all people reach the spiritual plane. They believe that in order to reach the spiritual plane, you must obtain secret knowledge from the greater God. Sloan took this religion and applied it to the Christian Bible. So looking at the Christian Bible with Gnostic logic, if God created the earth and humans, then God is the evil, more inferior God who did so to enslave us in the physical realm. And again, by that logic, Satan would be the greater God working to free us to our true spirit form. Sloan believed this was Satan's part in Adam and Eve, that he was really trying to give Eve secret knowledge to free her spirit. When Sloan died in 1975, however, his cult dissipated. But honestly, his beliefs make a lot of sense to me, and I plan on doing a whole video about them later if you guys are interested in that. Now, serial killers working together isn't too common, but serial killers working in a group with a leader is downright rare. Perhaps the most notorious of serial killer cults or groups was the Chicago Rippers, also known as the Ripper Crew. The Ripper Crew was made up of 4 people and was considered a cult due to its leader, Robert Geck. Robert actually worked at PDM Contractors, which was owned and operated by John Wayne Gacy, the infamous serial killer and rapist. The Ripper Crew was also made up of Edward Spreitzer and brothers Andrew and Thomas Cocorella. Man, I butchered that name worse than they butchered people. I'll stop. I'm sorry. Spreitzer and the Coco brothers, we'll call them, would drive around looking for victims who typically were prostitutes. They would abduct the victims and take them to Geck's apartment, which they referred to as the Satanic Chapel. The victims were then brutally beaten, raped, and mutilated in grotesque, ritualistic ways. They were killed in a various number of ways, like stabbing, shooting with an axe, with a machete, etc., but always while Geck read from the Satanic Bible. However, their ritual before killing the victims was far more grotesque than the way in which the victims died. This is definitely a part where that disclaimer at the beginning of the video comes into play. But while the victim was alive, they would remove her left breast and then take turns masturbating and ejaculating into the flesh. When they all finished, they would chop up the flesh and eat it as part of a sick communion ritual. They had over 20 victims, and it was always said that John Wayne Gacy had a partner, and that partner was most likely Geck. The next cult took place in the mid-2000s in Russia and was led by Nikolai Oybyak. He began as a child sacrificing small animals to Satan and swore up and down that after his rituals his life would get significantly better. When he was a teenager, he formed a cult with about 8 of his friends. Together, they held sacrificial rituals and ceremonies. In June of 2008, these 9 teens all told their parents that they were going to a music festival, but instead, over the course of the weekend, they lured 4 younger teens into the forest with alcohol. There, they all sat around a bonfire and watched the younger teens get drunk before finally stabbing them to death. They stabbed each victim exactly 666 times. Then, they cooked certain body parts, such as the hearts and tongues, and then ate them. What remained of the bodies was buried in a giant pit marked with an inverted cross and a dead cat. The year was 1991. 4 men who all worked in a carnival together, Jimmy Pennick, Mark Goodwin, and brothers Keith and David Lawrence, had all been involved in a satanic cult. One of their co-workers at the carnival, a William Olt, would often hear the 4 men talking about their involvement in the satanic cult and started to ask them if he could join. He asked them to join so much that one day the 4 men finally gave in and said yes. They told him that first he had to undergo an initiation and drove him out to a secluded area in the woods. There, they asked him to lay down on a makeshift altar, then quickly tied and gagged him. Keith said a prayer to Satan, and then Pennick cut Olt from his neck all the way down to his stomach. The 4 men then took turns slowly carving inverted crosses into his chest and his abdomen. Finally, Pennick looked Olt in the eyes and asked him if he was ready to die, then slit his throat from ear to ear. Next, they cut off his head and hands, tried to burn them, and then dumped his body in the field. Once they were totally finished, they, get this, took his money and wait for it, they went to fucking Arby's. Arby's. Like, is anyone out there surprised? Is there anywhere else that serial killers and psychopaths would go after killing someone other than Arby's? Because seriously, who the fuck else wants to go to Arby's? You have to be psycho to like Arby's. So if you ever went to an Arby's and tried their food and then thought, who the hell would go here? There's your answer. Well, honestly, I don't know about you guys, but after doing the research for this video, I had sleep paralysis for the first time in a very long time. Probably mostly due to picturing people actually eating Arby's. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Leave me a thumbs up if you liked this video so I know to do more like it. And also make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more creepy and weird shit. That's all I have for you guys for today. So alright, all my little poop kings and queens, I will see you later. What am I doing? In March of 1989, Mark and 3 of his friends went on a spring break trip to South Padre Island. Can I help you? Can I help you? Trying to film YouTube videos with a cat.